Yes, I finally got the new M2 Max MacBook Pro. Well, nice. Now that you got that thing, are you gonna buy a Wi-Fi 6E router? Oh, no, I guess I don't really plan on getting one of those. Oh, okay, but you got HDMI 2.1, so are you gonna buy an 8K monitor? I don't really need 8K. Those monitors are kind of pricey. I don't know. Oh, I see. You want to buy a 4K monitor with 240 hertz. No, not really. I don't game. Oh, okay, so the M1 Pro chip just wasn't cutting it for you? I don't know. I actually never had an M1 Pro MacBook in the first place. Ah, so why'd you buy that? The wallpaper is just so pretty on the new ones. Right, okay, let's begin. So I know Apple marketing is very good and very convincing. It's able to convince lots and lots of people that old hardware is actually very, very new. And yeah, it's tempting to buy the latest and greatest. Once it's just launched, it's fresh on our minds, it's all in the headlines. Lots of people are excited for the newest, latest, and greatest thing. But I think this is actually a perfect opportunity for us to look back at the M1 Pro and M1 Max MacBook Pros, particularly because of how little was changed, especially when it comes to the second-hand market. There's an incredible value now that was previously not available thanks to Apple dropping these new M2 Pro and M2 Max MacBooks. If you absolutely need the performance out of those chips, okay, great. Apple has an option for you now. If you absolutely need 96 gigs of unified memory on your laptop, that's great. Apple now has an option for you. But without even going through eBay or Amazon or Best Buy, I'm not trying to tell you to buy from a third party, although there likely is some really good deals, buying straight from Apple, which means that you're getting certified refurbished replacement components, basically brand new, and it still comes with the full Apple warranty. If you have the Apple card, you still get 3% cash back on certified refurbished products. Apple has dropped the price of the 14-inch and 16-inch MacBook Pros that are using the 2021 chips, the M1 Pro and M1 Max, by a pretty substantial amount. So now, for a little over $1,500, you can find a from Apple, basically new 14-inch MacBook Pro. And keep in mind, that's still going to have the exact same display as the $2,000 14-inch MacBook Pro. It's going to have the exact same speakers. It's going to have the exact same webcam, the same notch, same keyboard, same trackpad, just a slightly worse battery life, but still a very impressive battery nonetheless. Everyone I've talked to who has bought an M1 Pro MacBook Pro, the most common responses I always get is, it's still holding up extremely well. I still can't max out the chip. I haven't run into memory bandwidth issues. I haven't run into CPU issues. I haven't run into overheating problems. I haven't felt like the battery is too weak. And of course, all of that times 10 when it comes to the 16-inch MacBook Pro, which also got a pretty massive price reduction on the Apple Certified Refurbished page. So that's the MacBook Pro that I've been using to edit all of my videos and to do my live streams. And I gotta tell you, it is a complete champ. And the sound system they bake into the 16-inch MacBook Pro is incredible. And until the new 16-inch MacBook Pro comes out with the M2 chip, the previous generation 16-inch MacBook Pro had the best battery life of any laptop that you can find out there. It is just insanely good, and now you can find them for sub $2,000. That's right, within the $1,900 ballpark, you can get an M1 Pro chip in a 16-inch MacBook Pro, and that's going to give you well over 20 hours of battery life, depending on what you're doing. And I still think it's very easy for people to forget that the M1 Pro and M1 Max chips basically have the same CPU. So for a lot of your guys' different use cases, you're probably not going to be able to tell that big of a difference or that big of a jump going from M1 Pro to M2 Pro. And even if it is as good as an improvement as Apple claims, which a lot of the time it isn't, we're talking about a 20% boost in CPU performance here, okay? So this is not like night and day difference. This is like marginally faster, and maybe for your job, every second counts when you're exporting a video or compiling code or putting multiple audio tracks together in Logic, but do you really think that if your export takes 4 minutes instead of 5 minutes, that's going to be worth the difference of $500 on your next MacBook purchase? That is not nothing. You know, if we're talking about saving $500 by going with last year's certified refurbished models, that's like a 25% savings for the 14-inch MacBook Pro, and still well over 20% savings if you're buying the 16-inch MacBook Pro. And again, from all of the experiences I've seen of people having these online, very very few have been saying, oh no, M1 Max, M1 Pro, they're just too slow, I need something a little bit faster. That very rarely comes up, so the other reasons to buy the newest model isn't necessarily the speed. The most common argument I've seen is, well, I want that software support. I need as many years as macOS updates as possible, and the certified refurbished MacBook Pros, those are probably not going to get as much support. You may be right, but the truth is we really don't know with Apple anymore, particularly when Apple will continue supporting Macs for 6, 7, 8 years, but then suddenly discontinue a bunch all at the same time. And what I've noticed in more recent history, if you want to play the whole like, well, we need to prioritize the Mac that will get an extra 2 years of software support, is that a lot of the time with the older Macs that have been getting software support for 5, 6 years, Apple won't bring some of the best and biggest features to those older Macs. They'll restrict some of the more useful updates to the newer Macs because they'll say, well, you need newer hardware in order to fully unlock the power of macOS Chinchilla or whatever macOS we're on by then. And it should also be mentioned that as time goes on, software support for Apple hardware increases, not stays the same. So, like, for instance, especially with Apple Silicon, Apple provided 8 years of software support to the A8X chip on the iPad Air 2. And as far as how many years of software support the A10X chip will get, we don't even know because they're still updating the A10X, but we assume it will probably match or beat the A8X chip. And still, even so, the A12X chip, because it's higher end and higher performing, will probably get even more software support than the A10X. And then the M1 chip, which is basically an A14X, will get even longer support. So hypothetically, if Apple continues to expand support for their Apple Silicon devices, and as we've seen in the past with their higher end Apple Silicon, that tends to be the devices they support longer, there's a decent chance that the M1 Pro and M1 Max chips in my head could get 10 plus years of software support, meaning if you buy the certified refurbished ones today, they could still be getting, you know, security patches and maybe even new macOS features into the 2030 realm. And sure, maybe the M2 Pro and M2 Max chips, they might make it to 2031 or 2032, but wouldn't you rather have $500 now than save yourself an upgrade from 2030 instead of 2032? I mean, that just sounds like so far out. I can't give investment advice, but imagine if you took the $500 you saved today, put that in the S&P 500, how much is that going to be worth in another 8 to 10 years of waiting for your next MacBook, and how many years of software support you can get out of that thing, right? So the other thing to keep in mind is because the chips like the M1 Pro and M2 Pro are still based on the 5nm architecture, we could have a situation similar to the A8 and A9 chips where Apple just discontinues all the 5nm chips simultaneously. So it's a bet that you're playing, well, this one's newer, so it should get more years of software support, but in reality, the M1 Pro and M2 Pro might be discontinued at the exact same time. We just don't know. So that's why, unless you really need Wi-Fi 6E or HDMI 2.1 for some specific workflow, which you may have, I'm not denying that there's a reason to buy the new MacBook Pros. I'm just saying, unless you're very much convinced that those chips are going to unlock some use case or save you so much money that they're worth spending an extra $500 on over the certified refurbished models, which tend to be on average $500 cheaper than the M2 versions. Seriously, save yourself some money and you can thank me later. And on the subject of thanking, appreciate everybody supporting this channel on Tailosive Tech Pro. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. So this is your Apple Sheep here, and I'll see y'all in the next one.